So this is the next installment in our Questions People Would Like Susan to Answer series. And this particular one is a question I've been wanting to answer for a long time, but I couldn't quite figure out how to do it. And here's the question. This is from one of our longtime readers. You know what I'd love to hear or watch Susan talk about homeschooling her older children. This is from a reader who has a high school student now. What she's learned, what stands out in her mind, what she's glad that she's done, what has worked for them, and why. That makes it sound like she wants to hear about everything I did right. I actually have some epic parental fails, which I will try to share with you too. Here's the issue I've struggled with as I've been trying to think about how to address this question. The older your kids get, the more important it becomes to guard their privacy. I used to put these day-in-the-life blog posts up where I would describe everything that would happen during the course of a homeschooling day, including, children screaming at each other and me locking myself in the bathroom to not lose my temper with them, and food flying, etc. And my oldest son asked me to actually stop doing that when he hit his teenage years. So he's now 21, and my second son is 19, and the older they get, the more important this privacy becomes. They're making grown-up decisions now, and I don't want to share with you wrong decisions that they've made, or even wrong decisions that I have made that has changed the way they react to things, because they need some privacy. That's why I haven't done this question yet. At the same time, I have actually been homeschooling now for 17 years. I had to stop and count. And those of you who are closer to the beginning of the process might, I thought, enjoy hearing some of my thoughts on the high school and college years. So I want to start out by sharing 3 things that I've learned about the high school and college years with my own boys. And here's the first one. I learned that as your kids get older, you have to be very willing to change your educational plan, even drastically. And here's how drastic I'm talking about. Looking back on it, one of my kids should have gone to school. Not in the elementary or middle school years, but at some point in high school, I should have taken this child and put him in a classroom. Multiple reasons for that, and again, for privacy reasons, let me not go over them. He's a great kid. I'm a good teacher. But I should have found a classroom situation for him at least for the last 2 years of high school. It would have been a much better fit. You can't get so ideologically wedded to the project of home education that you forget you're dealing with a person. That person is not you. You may love homeschooling. That person may need something different. And our kids, as they grow, sometimes do need something that's different than what we have to offer them. So why didn't I do it? I can honestly tell you it wasn't because I'm a homeschooling guru and I was afraid of what people would say. What I was really afraid of is that if I put one kid in school and kept the other 3 home, that kid would somehow feel rejected or distanced from the family, and I couldn't figure out how to work through it. Looking back on it now, with my 20/20 hindsight, I would have put the kid in school and then taken the whole family to see a family therapist, or in some other way worked through what was really an emotional issue and not an educational issue. But I've learned that especially when you're dealing with teenagers who are constantly in a state of emotional agitation, that it's really difficult to pull educational and emotional issues apart. Again, educationally, the kid needed a classroom. It would have made so many things easier for him as he moved towards college. Looking back on it, that would be the advice I would give you. Be willing to change your educational plan drastically. Home education is great. It doesn't have to be great for all 12 years for the same kid in the same way. Sometimes you need to change things. Okay. Second thing, most students should try to take a gap year between high school and college if at all possible. A gap year is simply a year that you take off from going to school. You finish high school, then you get a job, you travel, you do an apprenticeship, you have an adventure of some kind, and then you go to college, what we would think of as 1 year late. Here's what you need to know about a gap year. Gap years are very common. Academic institutions recognize them as a period of time in which the student is preparing to be a better college freshman. In Europe, it's actually more common to take a gap year than not. Less common here in the US, but it's becoming a lot better known as an option for after high school. Why would you take a gap year? There's a lot of growing up that happens between 18 and 19. And as a mother of boys, since my only daughter is still just 12, I don't know how true this is for girls, but boys definitely can use that extra year off before they go to college. The thing to remember about college is that college is about a lot more than doing coursework. College requires that students have a certain amount of emotional maturity in order for them to really take advantage of the learning opportunities. I'm saying this not only as a parent, but as a longtime college professor. I've taught freshmen at the College of William & Mary for the last 12 years. When I walk into a freshman class, I can tell you, before I even talk to any of the students, which ones are 18 and which ones are a little older. Because the students who are a little older, even just 1 year older, are ready to pay attention. They have decided to come back and go to school. They know why they're there, and they're ready to benefit from the experience. The 18-year-olds tend to do a little bit of like, here I am, educate me thing, which as a college professor, you don't always appreciate. So how do you do a gap year? Well, the first thing the student has to do is decide when are they going to apply to college. There are two recognized ways to take a gap year. The first, most common, probably smartest, is to go ahead and pretend that you're going straight into college right after high school. Take your SATs, you apply to colleges. When you get into the one you've picked, you pay your deposit. Then you write to the admissions office and you ask for a deferral. And you explain that you're going to take a year, and during that year, you're going to earn some money, you're going to have some experiences, and you're going to prepare to really be a good college freshman. Almost every university will grant you this without any problem. It's a recognized request. The second way to do it, that's a little less standard, is you still go ahead and take your SATs. Don't ever put off taking the SATs, because once you're out of that classroom situation, you don't tend to do standardized testing as well. You take the SATs, but then you delay applying to colleges until halfway through your gap year. Again, as a college professor, I would feel uneasy with this. My oldest son, he wouldn't mind me sharing this, my oldest son really wanted to wait to apply. I think he felt that his high school transcript wouldn't look impressive enough. Against my better judgment, I said, okay, fine, we'll wait, you can apply. When he applied halfway through his gap year, I wrote an introductory, little essay saying, he decided to travel, this is what he did, this is where he worked, this is where he's been. We decided to wait and apply after he traveled, and he got into pretty much everywhere he wanted to try to go. So it didn't turn out to be a problem. Either way, the result is that the kid just gets a year to grow up. Also, depending on what they do for that gap year, they can get valuable insight into how to be independent, what kind of work they might want to do. My oldest son, when he took his gap year, again, I don't think he'd mind me telling you this, ended up spending the night on the floor of King Khalid International Airport in Saudi Arabia because he got stranded there and had neglected to check to see whether his credit or debit card would work in Saudi Arabia, and they didn't. That was a very valuable educational experience for him. I'm glad he had it. Having said that, this was a 6'2", 180-pound male. I would not put my daughter in the same situation, but I would want her to be in a situation where she had to figure out how to get out of a jam all by herself. When he went into college, he was so much better off for having had that experience. When you run out of money in Charlottesville, Virginia, it's not nearly as scary as when you run out of money in Saudi Arabia. So it wasn't that big a deal. So, gap year, get a job, travel, get a lousy job. Listen, having to work at a lousy job for 3 months is the greatest possible incentive for kids to do well when they get to be college freshmen. Have an apprenticeship. There are tons of different opportunities if you just even do an internet search for gap year opportunities. You'll find lots of different resources put together for students who want to pursue this. So, gap year. So, number three actually has more to do with me than my kids, so I can be a lot more honest with you. It is possible to burn out, even when you know what you're doing, even when you enjoy it. 17 years of homeschooling is a long time. My youngest is 12. I've still got another 5 or 6 years to go. So I'm, going to tell you a secret. Sometime during this past year, I thought to myself, I don't want to teach my kids anymore. Now, it wasn't that I didn't want to be with them. I wanted to play with them. I would get up in the morning and I'd think, I want to knit. I want to make cookies. I want to go out and shear the sheep. I want to go play. And, I wanted to have fun with them. I wanted to enjoy them. And I've been homeschooling for so long that to get up in the morning and think, now we have to do our math, started to feel not so much like a challenge or a joy or an opportunity. It felt like a task that I no longer wanted to do. Now, my mother, who homeschooled my brother and sister and I, back in the dark ages, always used to say, everybody wants to quit in November and February. So yeah, you have weeks where you don't want to homeschool, but this for me wasn't weeks. It was months of thinking to myself, I don't want to do this. I've taught them and taught them and taught them. I really just wanted to stop and have fun. So my first challenge was sort of to face up to this. I don't really want to homeschool right now. And then my second challenge was to try to think of a way to deal with it. So I will tell you that the way we dealt with it was, first of all, I had to stop feeling guilty about this. It's burnout. When you burn out on something, you take a sabbatical. A sabbatical is a temporary time away. It doesn't mean you're stopping. It means that you're taking a break. I had to sort of come face to face with the fact that I needed a sabbatical and that was okay. And then we decided to hire a couple of different tutors to come in and take over and do the school, still in our home, still on basically the same routine, using a lot of the same materials. And so for a while, that's what we're going to be doing. Now, I realize that this is not possible for everyone, although it's still cheaper than private school tuition, having looked at private school tuition. So not everyone can solve this problem easily. I guess I just wanted to say that we all burn out. I don't mean to sound too self-important, but I've had a lot of experience with homeschooling. I mean, I was homeschooled. I am homeschooling. Altogether, that's like 30 years worth of homeschooling, okay? If I can burn out, we can all burn out. I think part of what has happened, and this is where this links back into what have you learned as your kids have gotten into high school. As your kids get into high school and beyond, your focus changes. I realize that two things have happened now that I have two adults or semi-adults as children. I enjoy just being with them. I don't have to educate them anymore, and it's really fun just having a relationship with my older two as people and not as students. And I think that has spilled over into how I feel about the younger ones. But the other thing that's happened is I've realized my kids are getting older, and the time in which I'm going to have children at home, it's not here, but I can see it. I can see the end of it. When I had 4 children under the age of 10, I thought that time would never come. It was invisible, but I can see it now, and I want to play with my kids, not just teach them. So, sabbatical. As your kids get into high school, you may start to feel this yourself. Remember what I said in answer number 1, which is it's okay to change your educational plan. Any choice you make with a kid having to do with education doesn't have to affect you for more than 6 months. Don't think about the next 4 years. Don't even think about the next year. Think about, how am I going to handle the next 6 months? What's going to be possible for me? What's going to be best for my kid?